Good morning students. In this video lecture, we are going to start the topic conversion of galvanometer into ammeter. So let's see how we would convert the galvanometer into ammeter. Actually this particular topic is numerical point of view. From numerical point of view it is very important. So you have to understand the concept so that you can easily get the numerical problem related to this particular topic. So suppose we want to measure the current in a particular circuit and we know that we use ammeter. Ammeter actually is a galvanometer, and when we modify galvanometer by some modification, so that particular galvanometer becomes ammeter. So what the modification we have to do to convert a galvanometer into ammeter? Let's see the concept. Suppose this is the wire. Suppose this is the wire in which we want to measure the current. This is a circuit in which we want to measure the current. So how we would use the galvanometer? So galvanometer is connected in series. Suppose the current is flowing is I and we want to measure this current. So we would place the ammeter in series, and let's say we have a galvanometer, and the resistance of the galvanometer is represented by G. G is resistance of galvanometer. G is resistance of galvanometer. G is what? G is resistance of galvanometer, because it has a coil and each and every instrument, each and every device has a particular resistance. So the G is the galvanometer resistance, and we place the galvanometer in series. But there is a problem. If we place the galvanometer in any circuit to measure the current, and we know that the galvanometer deflects when the current flows in this, and there is a torque, and because of that torque there is a deflection in the pointer. And if you talk about pivoted type galvanometer, so there is a pointer, and I have already told you in previous video lecture when we talked about galvanometer that if a large amount of current flows into the galvanometer, its pointer may collide with the stop pin of the scale. Suppose this is the scale. Suppose this is the scale and this is the last division. So we have to place this on the scale a stop pin so that the pointer will not move further. And if the current is very large, then there would be a full scale deflection. There will be a full scale deflection means galvanometer the pointer of the galvanometer start deflecting, and it would deflect until the stop pin, and this stop pin may damage the pointer of the galvanometer. So it would, if the current is very large, then this pointer may go further, but because of the stop pin, it would apply a force on the pointer to stop it at here. So this pointer would damage by this stop pin, and in that situation we cannot attach the galvanometer in any circuit with any current. So we have to define first of the range of the galvanometer, and for that we know that this is the resistance of the galvanometer, and let's assume Ig, current Ig is the full scale, Ig is the current in the galvanometer which produces the full scale deflection. This is very important. Ig is the current in the galvanometer, causes full scale deflection, Ig is current in the galvanometer causes full place a galvanometer in such a circuit where the current which is to be measured by the galvanometer and the galvanometer maximum current which produces the maximum deflection is Ig, so it means this current could damage the pointer by the stop pin. Now, so we have to decide that we have to ensure that galvanometer, the current in the galvanometer would not be exceed to this Ig. The current in the galvanometer should not be exceed to this current Ig, which produces the maximum deflection in the galvanometer. Now, we know that there is a resistance of the galvanometer G, and if we place the galvanometer here, we know that the resistance of this circuit would increase. Why? This is resistance. Let's say this is resistance any small r, yeah, we can say this r as this is the resistance of this circuit in which the current I is flowing, and as we place the galvanometer in series, because the resistance of the galvanometer is C and it is significant, and now we can say the total resistance of the circuit, because they are connected in series, the total resistance in series we know that increases. So the total resistance is R dash plus G, which is increased. It means the resistance increases, the value of current which is flowing would decreases. So if the current decreases, it means the reading of the galvanometer would not be the same as the current was flowing before connecting the galvanometer in the resistance R dash. It means galvanometer would not give the actual current which was flowing when before connecting the galvanometer, which is I. As we connect the galvanometer, resistance of the circuit increases and it reduces the current flowing in the circuit. It means the current flowing in the galvanometer is not I, it would reduce. Let's say it would become I dash. I was the current before connecting the galvanometer, and as we connect the galvanometer, resistance of the circuit changes. It becomes R dash plus G. Resistance increases, the current would change, it would decrease. So the galvanometer would tell the reading I dash, not I. So how we would modify this galvanometer so that we can correctly measure the current which was flowing before applying the galvanometer in the circuit. So for that we want to make such a circuit so that the resistance of the overall galvanometer will become small. Overall circuit will become small, and we know that for lowering the resistance, let's say an example so that you can easily understand the concept. Let's say we have two resistances 3 and 2. Let's say we have two resistances 3 ohm and 2 ohm. This is the 3 ohm and this is the 2 ohm. Now if we connect these resistances in series, let's see what is the result. R is equal to 3 plus 2 equal to 5. You are seeing there this R, this resistance RS is greater than these two resistances. If this is R1, this is R2, we can say RS is greater than R2 is greater than R1. It means the series resistance is the largest resistance in these two. Now if you talk about parallel connection, let's say it is RP parallel. It is what? It is 3 into 2 upon 3 plus 2, which is 3 to the 6 upon 5, 1.2. Now let's see. The parallel resistance of these two resistances is smallest among them. So it is smallest, it is largest. So we can say RP is less than R2 is less than R3. It means RP is the smallest among them, and here RS is the largest among them. It means if we connect a resistance in parallel, the resistance of the circuit, overall circuit, would become smallest. So if you want to make the resistance of the galvanometer negligibly small, very small, we have to connect the resistance in parallel. And that resistance, if we connect the resistance in parallel, suppose we are connecting a resistance in parallel. Now this particular circuit you are seeing here is called ammeter. So here is a modification which we have done in the galvanometer so that it could read the actual current flowing in the circuit before connecting the galvanometer without altering the current after applying the galvanometer both of them. Okay. So now the contribution of this total resistance of this whole circuit is very less as compared to individual resistance of galvanometer. So resistance decreases, it means now the current could be measured as it was before connecting the galvanometer. Now this whole circuit is called ammeter. This whole circuit is called ammeter. So what is ammeter? In ammeter we connect a shunt resistance parallel to the galvanometer. One more thing here. So what should be the value of this shunt? It should be very large or it should be very small. Let's see this again. Suppose there is a 3 and 2 ohm resistance. Suppose we have a resistance R equal to 10 ohm. We are comparing whether this resistance should be small or it should be large, so that the overall resistance of this becomes very small. So let's take two values. This is R1, let's say R2 and R3. There are two resistances, and we have R2 is 5 and R3 is 2. First of all, we will combine these two, and in the next we will combine these two and see what is the difference in the parallel resistance of these two combinations. Let's see, this is 10 and this is 5. So parallel RP for the first one case, this one case is 10 into 5 upon 15. This is 10 by 3, which is approximately 3.3 ohm. Now for 2 ohm resistance, let's see, RP for the second case 10 into 2 upon 12. So this is 2 6 the 12, this is 2 5 the 10, 2 3 the, this is 5 by 3, and 5 by 3 is 1.6 ohm. You can easily see here that the resistance which we are connecting in the shunt, if it must be, whether it must be large or small, you should decide this by yourself. You could decide now. You are seeing here, if we connect a resistance whose value is greater than the resistance which we are connecting after in parallel to this 10 ohm, the resistance of this equivalent resistance in parallel of this combination is 3.3, and for this lower value resistance combination is parallel resistance is 1.6. So if we add a resistance which is smallest, it means we can simply say that the resistance of the parallel equivalent resistance is always less than the minimum resistance which are connected in parallel, is less than the minimum resistance of the combination which are connected in parallel. So here you are seeing there, this is 10 and this is 2. The answer is lesser than the minimum of the between 2, and the minimum is 2, and the answer of parallel combination, equivalent parallel combination is 1.6, which is lesser than 2. In this situation, it is lesser than 5 because it is minimum. Here you can also say that this is 3, this is 2. So the parallel equivalent is lesser than this 2 ohm, which is 1.2. So it means if you want to reduce the resistance of the overall circuit, the shunt resistance should be as small as possible. The shunt resistance should be very small. That's why it is called shunt. So I think you have cleared the concept of ammeter. Now, so this is the concept of ammeter. Now we are going to decide the value of S. What should be the value of shunt resistance? How could we decide the value of shunt resistance? Let's understand this concept now. How could we decide the value of this shunt resistance S? So suppose the current is I. One thing you have very carefully understand here. You should understand here what it is. Suppose the current flowing in the galvanometer. Suppose the current is flowing from here. Suppose this is current I. Let's say this is current I. Some current go in the galvanometer and some current would go in the shunt. And this galvanometer is not made for reading a particular current. It is a range up to which this galvanometer could be used. This ammeter could be used. Now we would say this ammeter. So in ammeter there is a galvanometer obviously. So the galvanometer has a range up to which we can use this galvanometer to make this particular ammeter. So how it is decided? It is decided by the current which is flowing in the galvanometer. What maximum amount of current will be flowing in the galvanometer? Because if the current flowing in the galvanometer exceeds to this particular maximum current, then galvanometer could damage by striking to the stop pin, as we have seen. It means the maximum current could be flow in the galvanometer is, we can say, we have already described this as Ig. We have already defined this current as Ig. Ig is what? It is the maximum current. Current in the galvanometer causes full scale deflection. And when the full scale deflection would happen? When the current Ig which is flowing in the passing in the galvanometer must be maximum. Then that current would produce full scale deflection. So this is the current. This is the limit. Actually, the current flowing in the galvanometer could not be exceed to this particular current Ig. It must be Ig up to Ig. So if it is fixed, so it means the current which we can measure, this is the current which is measured by this ammeter, it is also has a limit. It should also have a limit. And that current, let's say, is I. That current is, let's say, I. So what is I? It is the maximum current which can be measured by this ammeter. This is the maximum current which can be measured by this ammeter. Now, let's see what is the current of this. The current passing through the shunt is I minus Ig. I minus Ig. This is the current which is passing through the shunt. Now, let's decide how we would find the value of. Actually, we have galvanometer in the market which have a maximum deflection associated with the maximum full scale current flowing in the galvanometer. So Ig is fixed and the value of current which we have measured could be find out if we have the value of resistance, shunt resistance S. So you are seeing here these two are connected in parallel. It means voltage across these two would be equal, because we know that in parallel voltage is same. So the voltage across this is current Ig into resistance G. This is equal to I as of now, and the voltage in this is equal to, both will be equal, I minus Ig, because this is the current flowing in this shunt and into S. So यहाँ पर students Ig into G is the voltage across this galvanometer, and I minus Ig into this is the voltage across this shunt, and because these two are connected in parallel, these voltages would be equal. Now let's solve this Ig into G. From here we would find the S. If we have given S equal to what? Ig upon I minus Ig. Ig upon I minus Ig into G. This is the S. So if we want to find the shunt of the galvanometer, so we have given the maximum current which produces the full scale deflection in the galvanometer, which have given this value in the numerical. If we want to find the S, we have also given the value of I. What is I? I is the current. I is the maximum current. I is the maximum current which could be measured by galvanometer, which could be measured by ammeter. I is what? This is the the maximum current up to which we can measure by the particular ammeter. So this is the maximum current. And what is the minimum current which could be measured by this ammeter? 0. So we can say this particular ammeter has a range from 0 to I ampere. This is the range. So any ammeter could be can read up to a particular range. The minimum range value is same for all the ammeter, and the maximum I, the maximum current which is flowing in the circuit, the current flowing in a particular circuit, because current is different for different particular circuit. And if you want to apply the ammeter, that ammeter has a range, and if we apply such ammeter, if the current it is not able to read the high amount of current, it could damage. We have seen here, if the current is very high, then Ig could, the current flowing in a galvanometer passing through the galvanometer could be larger than the Ig, and if it is larger than the Ig, then the pointer of the galvanometer could damage by the stopping. So here we are seeing there, the range of the ammeter is from 0 to I. I is the maximum current which can be measured by particular ammeter. Now the shunt resistance is found out by this particular formula, Ig upon I minus Ig into G. G is the resistance of the galvanometer, it is the field for the particular galvanometer. So this is the formula, this is the conversion of galvanometer into ammeter. Now the second conversion is suppose second conversion is conversion of galvanometer into voltmeter. Conversion of galvanometer into voltmeter. So what is the use of voltmeter? It is used to measure the potential difference across a particular element in which the current is flowing. So we could use voltmeter. So how we would change the galvanometer into a voltmeter? Just like we have just see the galvanometer is modified into the ammeter by applying a shunt resistance in parallel to the galvanometer. Let's see the concept of voltmeter. Suppose we have this resistance in which a current is flowing I, and the resistance, let's say it is R dash for understanding purpose. This is R dash, and the voltage. What is the potential difference? We know that if the current is flowing in this, there is a potential difference. So what is the potential difference? Potential difference across this end, we can denote it as V. So what is V? V is the voltage or potential difference across this resistance R dash. Now we are going to measure the voltage of this particular circuit whose resistance is R dash. We have seen in the galvanometer that deflection of the galvanometer is because of the current flowing in the galvanometer, and current is because of the voltage given to the particular galvanometer, and V equal to IR, we know that. So it means if the deflection is because of the current, so it could be also because of the voltage. Means the deflection in the scale could be because of the voltage given to the galvanometer. So the scale could be whose divisions in terms of voltage rather than current. So for measuring the voltage, we would connect the galvanometer in parallel, as we know that the voltmeter is connected in parallel. So between this end and this end, we are going to connect the galvanometer. Let's say this is the galvanometer G, and this is connected like this. Now, as we connect this galvanometer in parallel to this resistance R dash, now I am asking a question to you: is the voltage across this resistance R dash would be same as it was before applying the galvanometer? No. Why it is no? Because some current would flow in the galvanometer also. So the current I which is only flowing in the resistance R dash would not flow in the resistance R dash after applying the galvanometer in parallel. Some amount of current would go from the galvanometer, and the current flowing in the R dash would reduce to its initial value, which is I. It means the reading of the voltage across this resistance R dash would not be same as V. So the deflection produced in the galvanometer would give the voltage which is not V, which is lesser than V. So what we should do here, so that we can read the voltage across this particular resistance as it was before applying the galvanometer for measuring the voltage across the circuit. So which is creating the problem here? This current is creating the problem here. If the current flowing in the galvanometer would not, after applying the galvanometer, if no current flowing in the galvanometer, yeah, very small current flowing in the galvanometer, practically it is not possible that there is no current. So it's very small amount of current flowing in the galvanometer, then we can say the voltage across this resistance would be approximately equal to the voltage which was before applying the galvanometer. So what should we do so that we can achieve our goal here? The resistance of the galvanometer is G, which we have already known. So what should we do? Actually, the current in this path, our goal is the current in this particular path should be very small, very negligible. And we know that for making a current in a particular path very small, the resistance of that particular path has to increase. So our problem has solved here. We have to increase the resistance of this particular path. And for increasing the resistance, what we have to do, we have just seen before by two examples, 3 ohm and 2 ohm. If we connect these resistance in series, we know already that we connect two resistance in series, the resistance of the path would increases, and if resistance increases, the current would decreases. So we have to place a resistance in series with the galvanometer, that resistance, and what would be the value of that resistance. Suppose I am going to modify this circuit. This is galvanometer and this is resistance R. So student, what should be the value of this resistance? Whether it should be large or it should be small, because our aim is to make this current which is passing from this particular path in which the galvanometer is connected must be very low. So the resistance should be very high, because if the resistance is very high, the series combination equivalent resistance would be also very high, because we take with 3 ohm and 2 ohm, the resistance series equivalent would be 5 ohm, which is greater than the highest value, which is greater than the highest in both of them. The series is highest than the both of them. So it means if we want to increase the resistance, so we have to put a very large resistance. So this series resistance, this series RS, this series resistance, not confused with shunt. This is series resistance RS, series resistance. The series resistance must be must be very large. The series resistance must be very large. If it is very large, then the overall resistance also becomes very large, and the current which is flowing before would reduces appreciably, and the current, all the current which is flowing in this resistance R dash, the current which is flowing, the most of the part of the current would start flowing in this resistance R dash, because the resistance of this particular part has increased to this R dash. We have increased the resistance by connecting our series resistance galvanometer. And one more thing important here. The current which, if you want to decide, this whole structure is called voltmeter. This is called voltmeter. So what is voltmeter? In voltmeter, we connect a high value, very high resistance in series to the galvanometer, and this whole combination is called voltmeter, to measure the voltage across any circuit in which the current is flowing. Now, how you decide the resistance and the voltage? How you will find? So how we would decide the range of this particular voltmeter up to which maximum value it could measure the particular voltage of any circuit. Just like in ammeter, 0 to I. Let's say this is the maximum voltage. Let's say V is the maximum voltage. V is the maximum voltage which could be measured by maximum voltage which could be measured by the maximum voltage which could be measured by this voltmeter, measured by voltmeter. So V is the maximum voltage which could be measured by voltmeter. Now let's see. And to decide the maximum voltage V which could be measured by this, on which value this is depending on, up to what maximum value we could measure by this voltmeter. Actually it is depending on the current flowing in the galvanometer. Up to what maximum current this galvanometer could not be damaged, and we know that current is, we have defined the name Ig. This is the current which the galvanometer can up to which the galvanometer can save, and if the current goes beyond this maximum value Ig, the galvanometer could damage. So the maximum voltage V which could be measured by this whole voltmeter is depending on the maximum current which produces the full scale deflection in the galvanometer is Ig. So let's define the range of the galvanometer. Ig flowing in this also, and the voltage is here at this and this point is V. We know that this voltage and this voltage above this and this is equal, because this whole combination voltmeter is connected in parallel, so the voltage across voltmeter is equal to V. So we can say V equal to current Ig into resistance G, and the current in this plus, you can apply K, and current is flowing in here to where this is plus, this is minus, this is plus, this is minus, polarity. This is minus, this is plus, it means these two would be in addition. So the total voltage of this is Ig into G plus Ig into Rs. So this is the V. So from here, from this particular equation, you could decide the maximum voltage which could be measured by this voltmeter if you have given the maximum or full scale deflection current of the galvanometer Ig, resistance of the galvanometer, and series resistance. You could decide the maximum voltage V, and from here you could decide the range. Means voltmeter can read up to minimum value 0 to V. find the resistance, series resistance RS if you are given this value V by using V minus Ig into G upon Ig equal to RS. Yeah, you can separate this Ig. So we have also write it as V upon Ig minus G equal to RS. So you can also find RS by this if you are given these values, and if you are given these values you can find the maximum voltage which can be measured by this particular galvanometer. Now this is finalized. Now move further topics. Let's move toward the further topics, and the further topics are we are going to define magnetic dipole moment. We are going to define magnetic dipole moment just like electric dipole moment. So the next topic is about magnetic dipole moment. Magnetic dipole moment. Just revise the electric dipole moment. What is the electric dipole moment? It is denoted by the symbol small p, and we have seen that is the product of charge. Electric dipoles are two equal and opposite charges separated by a small distance. This combination is called electric dipole, and here we are going to define small p as we have studied earlier. P is what? Q into distance between them. And we have seen there P is a vector quantity and direction of the P is from -2 to Q. In the same way we are going to define the magnetic dipole moment, and also we have the formula for the torque. If a dipole is placed in a uniform electric field and there is an angle between dipole moment and electric field is theta, so the torque is given by V sin theta. So magnetic dipole moment, for defining the magnetic dipole moment, we know that magnet has two poles, north and south, and in magnet these two poles cannot be separated. These two, if there is north pole, there must be south pole and associated with the north always. So magnetic poles cannot be separated. So we can say if this is north and this is south, and the distance between these two is, let's say, 2L. So the magnetic dipole moment capital M, is equal to small m into 2L, just like Q into 2L. What is small m? It is the pole strength. M is the pole strength, and capital M is the dipole moment, magnetic dipole moment. Capital M. This is the capital M and this is small m. Magnetic dipole moment. M into 2. As it is a vector quantity, it is also the vector quantity, and the direction of the magnetic dipole moment is south to north. The direction of the magnetic dipole is from south pole to north pole. The direction is from south pole to north pole. And we can also define magnetic dipole moment. Tau is what? It is P sin theta in case of electrostatic. In static chapter, and in magnetic magnetic we have also find out the torque. In magnetic we have also find out the torque because of a current carrying loop. Now we are going to define the torque because of a current carrying loop, single loop, and for current carrying single loop it is I A, magnetic field B, and sin theta. This was the torque which we have derived the concept in the first video lecture of the torque chapter. This is the I for a single loop which depends on the area, of the plane surface. Actually it must be a plane surface. So I A B sin theta, and theta is the angle between the area vector and the magnetic field. Now here you are seeing that this is sin theta, this is sin theta. This is E, in place of E there is B. So in place of B, in place of B in the electrostatic formula of the torque, what is here in the magnetostatic? It is IA. It is IA. This is in magnetostatic we are talking magnetostatic. So it is IA. So this is the what? This is the electric dipole moment. This is what? This is the magnetic dipole. So we can say tau equal to m b sin theta also, and where m is magnetic dipole moment, and m is what? It is equal to I A for a single loop. Current carrying plane loop of area A. For a single current carrying plane loop of area A, magnetic dipole moment is IA. This is also the formula. But if you ask our question, what is the magnetic dipole moment, you have to write this definition, not this one. This is the basic definition. There, as we have studied, this was the basic. P into Q into 2L. So here it is the product of the pole distance, and the distance between the poles is called the magnetic dipole moment. And this is also equal to m equal to IA, but this is for the single current carrying loop of area A. This is n. If there is n terms, obviously this is n equal to n I A. If there are n terms, this is n equal to n I A. We know that if we write this formula in the vector form, because you are seeing here, I am not placing the arrow, it means it is the in scalar. So if you want to this in the vector form, place arrow on this n. Current scalar quantity. What is area vector? This is area, this is vector quantity, planar surface, this is it. So it means how we would define the direction of the magnetic dipole moment in a current carrying loop. How we would define the direction of the magnetic dipole in the current carrying loop. Very important point here. Let's see the direction of the magnetic dipole moment in the current carrying loop. Let's see, this is the current carrying loop. The current is flowing clockwise. This is the current I, which is flowing clockwise. This is the plane surface. So we know that the area vector, it is either in this direction. Normally it is in the normal direction to the surface like this, or inside this blackboard. What is the direction of the m? The direction of the m is decided by the current and by the right hand rule. What is the right hand rule here? Place your right hand in such a way that on closing the fingers, the direction of the rotation of the fingers should represent the direction of the motion of the current in the coil. So the current is flowing like this. So in which manner we have to place our right hand rule here, so that on closing the fingers they must point the direction of the current flowing in the loop. In that situation, the thumb would point the direction of the magnetic dipole moment. We have two options. Let's see if inside this we can place the symbol cross for M. So I think you are clear. From here you can also find the unit. The unit of M is ampere. This is ampere and this is meter square. So this is ampere meter square. Unit of M is ampere meter square. Now the last topic is magnetic dipole moment. We are going to find out the magnetic dipole moment because of a charge which is moving in a particular orbit of radius, electron which is moving in a particular orbit of a radius r. So suppose this is an electron and this is moving like this. At this point the direction of the velocity of the electron is this, and in this point it is this way, means it is tangential to the motion, tangential to the circular path, and this is the center. Let's say this is the radius r, in which the electron, this is let's say electron E minus, electron is revolving with velocity of the magnitude v. The magnitude of the velocity is v, and this is r. This is moving with constant magnitude of velocity which is v, uniform circular motion you can see here. So electron is moving like this in a wire, in a loop. Suppose it is a wire. To understand this concept, let's say this is the wire and this is the center, and this is very negligible. For understanding purposes I am showing this. So this is the total R. What is the current flowing in this particular path? We know that the current is what? Current is the net charge flowing from a particular cross section of a wire. The net charge passing from a particular cross section of the wire in a particular interval of time. So we can say I average current is delta Q by delta T. This is the average current, we can say delta Q upon delta T. The net charge passing through a particular cross section of a wire in a particular interval of time delta T. Here we are taking a cross section. This is cylindrical in shape, wire is cylindrical in shape, and we are taking a cross section. A single electron is moving. There is not multiple electrons. A single electron is moving. I am asking to you, what is the time? In which time, according to current definition, from this particular cross section, how much charge is passing? First answer to this question. In particular time, in which time interval the charge, this electron is passing from this surface. Suppose electron is starting from here, just pass here. To understand this concept, and see here, observe here, electron just pass this particular cross section and again start moving because it is revolving in this path. So electron start revolving here, and as the electron again pass this cross section, what is the time? The time is to complete this distance, which is called capital T. Period, time period, yeah, we can say time of revolution, time of one revolution we can say. So this time is taken by the electron to cross any particular cross section. You can observe anywhere this particular cross section, electron interval, which is time period of this one revolution, completing one revolution. So we can say I in this particular case is charge of the electron and the time period t. I think you have cleared this relation, and we know that if this is the radius r and the speed of the electron is v, constant speed, velocity not constant because the direction is changing, we are taking the velocity. So what is the time taken to complete one revolution? Time equal to distance upon speed. What is the distance from here to here? Circumference of this path, which is 2 pi r, and what is the speed? It is v, magnitude of velocity v. So put this value t here. So it is I equal to e upon 2 pi r, and this is v. This is I equal to ev upon 2 pi r. I equal to ev upon 2 pi r. We know that m, we have to find m. We know that m is what? Ia. In magnitude form it is Ia, because it is a single loop. So this is Ia. What is the area of this loop? This is pi r square. And what is the I? This is ev upon 2 pi r into pi r square. Pi to pi cancel, r to r cancel. So m is what? M is ev r upon 2. This is m. ev r upon 2. Magnetic dipole moment magnitude ev r upon 2. We know that if there is a electron moving, in an orbit, there is a concept of stability according to Bose, and we know that angular momentum L equal to what? It should be mvr. M is mass of the electron, v is speed, and r is radius of the orbital. So this is the angular momentum. So we can also find the relation between m and l. So if we divide these two equations, we have m by l equal to evr upon 2, and l is mvr. vr cancel out. So m by l equal to e upon 2m. What is e by l? Charge to mass ratio. It is the constant value for the electron, because it is the charge constant 1.6 × -19. M is also constant. So it is m by l. M is what? Magnetic dipole moment. L is angular momentum. L is what? Angular momentum. What is the direction of the m here? Let's see. Electrons is revolving like this, in this way, and we can say, we know that the direction of the current is opposite to the motion of the negatively charged particle. So the current is flowing clockwise. So where is the m? Where is the m? M is inside, means cross. This is the direction of the m, and this is the relation of m, evr upon 2. So this is all about the second chapter, which is taught. Now we will start the new topic in next video lecture, new chapter. Thank you.